Alrighty. Looks like we may still have some people trickling in, but I'll go ahead and get started, seeing that numbers start to climb. So, welcome to another Monolith Mondays. My name is Megan. I'm the marketing manager here at Monolith Forensics. If you haven't joined us for Monolith Mondays before, what it is every Monday at 10 a.m. Central, somebody from our Monolith team is going to walk you through a feature inside the Monolith platform live. And if you have any questions about that feature or about Monolith in general, our team is here to help answer those questions live for you. So today's session, we have somebody you all probably know, our CEO and founder, Matt Danner, who will be walking us through custom report templates, which is a really, really cool feature inside of Monolith. So that will be enough for me. Let me get Matt up here so he can show you the cool stuff. Remote to panelist. We will have time for Q&A, so if you have questions, just pop them in the chat or in the Q&A. And if you want to come on and ask them live, raise your hand and we'll give you permissions to ask over your microphone as well. But for now, I'm going to hand things over to Matt.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, great. Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for hopping in. So what we're going to talk about today is, like Megan said, we're going to cover report templates. So let me start by sharing my screen here. And just so I can quickly just to refresh everybody, if anybody is not using the report system in Monolith, or if you're not a Monolith user right now, just to give you a brief overview of what the report system is. Basically, so you can see here, I'm inside of a case just called MM, which stands for Monolith Mondays report template case. So as you create a case and you populate your case with data, so by default, you have like this case metadata with case descriptions, custom field information, all that stuff. And then we have evidence here and acquisitions, files, tasks, all this good stuff. So as we add stuff to this, once you're ready to produce some kind of some kind of narrative-based report, so it could be it could be your just a forensic examination report, could be some kind of summary memo, could just be it could be anything. Could just be reporting on evidence items that you collect in the case. It could be, basically the idea here is we've built in the system to make it easier for you to create basically your forensic narrative reports. So by default, with the report system, there are two ways to generate a report. One is you can use our sort of predefined opinionated forensic report. So that means you just keep all the default options. You go through, you can turn off different sections of the reports. You can select things that you want to keep and enter. And then Monolith will generate a Word document report that's just opinionated. It has our formatting, it has our structure, all that stuff. But what can happen though is that, especially for some new customers that purchase Monolith, they may already have a report template that they like using, that they've been using for a while, and they don't necessarily want to have to switch to the default report that Monolith has. So with our report templating system, what it allows you to do is basically just take your current report template, or if you want to fully customize your reporting, your report narrative instead of using ours, you can create your own template. So and the way that our templates work is they're basically Word documents where you use our templating syntax and variables to construct a template. So what I'm going to do really quick is just to populate some simple data here. I'm going to create an evidence item. Just quickly, I'll just enter a smartphone here. Just say this is an iPhone 13. We'll make up a model number here. We'll make up a serial number here. We'll say it's 128 gigs. We'll leave off the link contact for now. And then we'll give this a description here. This is a device that we are going to process, and we're going to collect, process, and extract communications. Okay. And then we can enter a custom field here if we want for this evidence IMEI. And then we'll go ahead and add some chain of custody here as well, just so that we can see this go into the report if we want. Gives us some additional data here to enter. Okay. So we created this item, and then we can also quickly create an acquisition here, full file system image, give this some details here, software, we'll say Celebrite, size, we'll say 100 gigs, and we'll leave all this stuff blank for now. Basic full file system forensic image. Okay. And then a couple other things. We'll create some notes here. We'll just call this imaging notes. And what I'll do, just to quickly populate this stuff, I'm just going to throw some template data in here just so that it's here. Okay, great. So now we have a note, we have some evidence, we have an acquisition. So we've got some basic data in this case. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm just seeding the case with data so that we have something to populate the template with. So now if we go into our reports tab, I've already created just a simple report instance here that we can start working in. And you'll see at the report options, at the very, very top, you have a section called template options. And there's a couple of options here. One is we can select a template that already exists, or we can upload a new template in place. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start by just creating a basic template first, we're going to start with a very simple template just to show how the template syntax works and how the template variables work so that you guys can get a very basic understanding of it. And then I'll show you what a more complex template might look like. So just to get started, if we hop over to our docs page, which is, you guys can navigate there now, it's just docs.monolithforensics.com. And we're looking at under case reports, report templates. And this section here just outlines like the basics of how a template works. And the real core of it is going to be this sort of standard template variable. So if you've ever worked with mail merge or other types of templating systems in like HTML or Python, this sort of double handlebars syntax is very, very common. It's also called handlebars or mustaches or curly braces. But basically what you have is you have two curly braces on the left, two curly braces on the right, and then some kind of variable in the middle. And what happens with these types of variables is when you upload a Microsoft Word template that has this syntax in it, when you generate a report, Monolith basically replaces this entire block with whatever variable this represents. So an example would be if you wanted the case number for your case to exist at a specific point in the report, you would just use these handler messages and then use our variable for a case number. So in this case, it's case.case number. And so Monolith will replace this entire block of text in your Word document with the actual case number text for that particular case. And so that's sort of the core principle here with the report templating system, is that we're just basically plugging in placeholders. And then once Monolith generates the report, Monolith will replace those placeholders with actual case data. Now it gets interesting after this because this is pretty simple. This is just find and replace that's going on with the report template. Where this gets a little tricky is you have situations like, if we go back to Monolith here, we just have one evidence item, but what if we have two evidence items? And this time I'll say this one's a Samsung just to make it different. Do a Samsung phone. We'll say this is a Galaxy. I don't even know what the current model is, 14. We'll give it a random model number here. Go to serial number, size. Again, we'll say 128. We'll say this is a basic Android device. Okay. So instead of having one, we have two evidence items. So the problem with the standard placeholder variable like this, well, that's great, but from one case to another, we don't know when we're building this template, we don't know how many evidence items there are. Maybe one case just has one item, maybe another case has 20 items. So how do we construct a template so that the template can account for multiple evidence items within a report template? Well, this is where the concept of loops and lists come into play. So since we know that evidence basically can either be anything between 0 and infinity in terms of how many evidence items might be in a case, we need some syntax that helps us iterate through each of those items and then output the content that we want into the report template. So in programming parlance, this is called a loop. It's called a for loop specifically. And our templating syntax maps to that very closely. So this syntax right here, you have the keyword here is for, and the end keyword is end for. And so all you're saying is for is a common programming syntax convention where it just says, hey, for each item in this list of items, I want you to do some work. And then when I'm done with that work, I want you to go ahead and end the loop. So this end loop, this end for is just telling, the application, hey, this is where the loop ends. So stop looping after. Once you get here, just that only repeat this logic between this block and this block. And then once you've exhausted all the items in this list, then you can exit the loop and continue with the rest of the report template. Okay, so this is really, really important. And you can see the special syntax we have here. Instead of 2 handlebars, we just have 1 handlebar and a percent, a closing handlebar and a percent, and then the same for the end for loop. This is just special syntax so that we know how to end the loop. So as we get into more of this more complex syntax, to kind of give you a bit of a cheat sheet or a kind of a bonus here on how this works, our templates actually just use a system called Jinja. So what Jinja is a templating syntax engine that is used in Python. And the Word documents that we have basically are using Jinja in the background. The word templates we're using Jinja in the background to handle this templating process. And the reason, now some of you may not really care that we're using that, but the reason I'm saying this, introducing you to this concept, is that basically we support any syntax that Jinja supports, which is really, you may not realize it right away, but makes these templating systems extremely powerful. Because you can look through all these different ways of handling and managing data in this report template that Jinja provides and just plug it right into the Microsoft Word document template that you're working on. So it allows you to do a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of really complex logic, a lot of really complex conditional logic and loops and iterations and all kinds of stuff. But basically, I would say in most basic templates that you put together, you're only going to need the standard variable replacement and then lists and loops, and then maybe some conditional syntax, some if-then statements. That's probably the most that you'll ever need for these. So if we look at this example we have in the docs, here we're creating a for loop where we're basically just iterating through all the evidence items in the case, and they're outputting some kind of textual information into the template, and then we're ending that loop. And so here's an example right below it that kind of tries to illustrate how this logic works. So here's the actual template syntax that's in the document itself. And so all it's doing is it's looping through each of our evidence items, and it's outputting an evidence number for each item into the report. And so the output would look something like this. Just a simple evidence number, new line evidence number, and that's it. And so in here, we're showing the next example is like, well, what if we don't want them on new lines? What if we want them just in the same horizontal line within the document? Okay, that's great. Just don't put any white space then. So you can see here we have a new line that we've entered before we entered or output the evidence number, and then we had another new line. And that's what's giving us this sort of vertical list of evidence numbers. If we want them to just be side by side, then we have to update the syntax to where we don't have that new line character. It's just right there in line inside of the syntax as well. And then you get this sort of horizontal single line of output. So this is stuff where once you start building your template, you're going to probably have to do multiple iterations of testing it and using Monolith to generate the report so you can tweak it and see if you like the output. So it can be this can be a little bit tedious to put together. But what it's doing at the end of the day is it's giving you an option to make 100% customized reports in Monolith. And it's one of those things where you spend a little time getting the template right, and it's going to probably save you literally hours. I mean, tens, if not hundreds of hours a year in generating your reports. Because you now don't have to manually write these reports anymore. You can get the report exactly the way you want it. You can create multiple templates for different use cases. And then basically in Monolith, you just click one button and the report comes out exactly the way you want it. We also have table. There's some special syntax that we use for tables, which we may not cover in this session, but basically there's some extra syntax that you need to worry about when you're trying to create a table in a report template to output information. Okay, so the next thing we'll do here in the documents is look at our template variables list. So this section here in the docs, what it's going to run you through is just going to give you the list of all the different variables that we currently support for the report. And so, it's showing you how to use them in the template. So for example, if you want to put your organization name of that you have in Monolith, if you want to output in that report, you use this template variable here. If you want to output since you're generating a report, if you want to output your current first name, last name, all that, you would use these template variables, and then so on and so forth. For each different basic resource in Monolith, you'll see all these different template variables that map to the case or the evidence or chain of custody and all that good stuff. So let's start by doing let's do a really basic template so we can just demonstrate how this works. I'm going to flip my screen over really quick to this Word document. Okay, so we got a basic Word document here. And what I want to do is, let's say I just want to put the case number at the top, and then we'll do something like this. We'll say forensic analysis reports, and I'm just going to center it, make it a little bigger, make it bold, and then I'm going to put a variable here just called case.case_number, and I'll do case.case_name. So just doing a little bit of a header here. I'm going to shrink the size of this a little bit just to make it a little bit cleaner. I'm going to take out the bold. Okay. And then lastly, I'll do our org name as well. And then I'll do the org name, and then I'll do, say, user.full_name. User.email, and do user.title. So what I did here is I'm just making a very basic template where what we're getting is a forensic analysis title here. We're getting our case number, case name. We're getting our org name here in the middle. And then I'm just putting in my name and title and email and everything, just so we're making like a basic cover page. So I'm going to save this and hop back over to Monolith. And we're going to upload this template. So I'll go to reports here. I'll go into our template here. Go here, click new template. We'll say Monolith template. And then I'm going to select this thing. And I'll keep it private for now. I'll go ahead and submit that. So now I just uploaded that template and now we have it available. The last thing I do, the one option that we have for templates is you can select which evidence items you want to include. I'm going to include all of them, but right now the report template doesn't have any evidence related stuff, so it's not outputting anything. But I've got them selected now, so I can just jump right into create report, and then we'll generate a report, and let's see if I got the template right. Let's see if I got the template syntax correct. Looks like I did. Okay, great. So it already generated our template. I'm going to download this. I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to open it up here in a second. Just bear with me. And then I'm going to switch over to this document so you can see what it looks like. So hopefully you should be able to see this report. And what you'll see now is that Monolith successfully took our template and converted those variables into all of the correct values for this case. So if you notice, now that I've got that template in place, I clicked create report, and within seconds it had this report where it completely added new stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more content to our template. I'm just going to show, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show the looping syntax for, let me close this out, hang on. I'm going to show the looping syntax for evidence, and then we'll probably wrap it up there, just to kind of give you the basic idea of how this stuff's supposed to work. Okay, so we're back into our forensic report, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create a basic loop for our evidence items. So to do that, we're going to start by getting our looping syntax here. I'm going to say for, and then we're going to say item in evidence. Okay, so that's starting our loop, and then we're going to end our loop. Do parentheses in for, parentheses, close bracket. So this is really important. A good way to do this whenever you're building one of these loops, just start by creating the starting block and the end block. Just so, because a lot of times when we help people debug their reports, they just forget to close their for loops. This is like the most common bug that most people get in their templates when they're building them, is they don't put this they don't write this in for until they've already put all the content, and they just simply forget to put it, or they'll sometimes do nested loops and they just forget all their end loops. And so here I can do we'll do item.evidence number. I can do let me reference my variables because I don't remember them by heart. Evidence underscore type. And we'll do let's see. We'll do item underscore name. Okay, and then we'll put a little extra empty line there just so we can see some separation. I'll save that, and then let's hop over to Monolith. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into settings. Instead of re-uploading a new template, I'm going to go into settings. I'm going to go to document templates. And this is where all of our templates are listed. So you can manage your templates here. And what I want to do is I just want to update the version that we have here for this Monolith Monday template. I'm going to edit, and then I'll just click here, and I'm going to select our template that we just updated and saved, and I'll submit that. And what that does is just re-uploads the same template to the same template instance, so that way you don't have to create, when you're going through this iteration process, you don't end up creating like 20 of the same, templates that you then need to go back and delete. You can just update them in place. And then I'll hop back over to our report system for this case. And if you look, I still got my evidence items selected. So if I got the template right, we should see that same report, except this time we should have a simple list of the evidence items this time. Okay, great. Our most recent one is always flips to the top here. So I'll download this. We'll open that up and I'll share it so you guys can see it. Excellent. Okay, so you guys should see this now. So this is the result of adding that evidence loop to the report. So now that I've had that evidence loop, and all I did was I just outputted the evidence number, the type, and then the item name. So very simple loop, and it output both of the evidence items for this case. So that's the basics of how to use this report template. The idea here is I'm just trying to show you guys like what a very basic use case looks like, so you can understand the templating process and the templating syntax. You could do reports that are way more complicated than this. This is just the basics. Let me show you one of our template examples that we have on the site. So if you check our docs page, we have a couple of template examples that you can download and look at, and for inspiration, or just for to help you understand how to put these together. So here, this is like our standard Monolith report that's built as one of these templates. So you can see here how I have as I scroll through, you can see the various template syntax. I even have as part of this template, it has a table of contents system built into it. And as you scroll through, you can see, all the different syntax that's involved. And you'll notice when we get to things like the evidence photos output for thumbnails, the syntax gets a little bit more complicated. And this is where just a little bit of practice and iteration, you can kind of do some of these more complicated syntax outputs. Cool. So I will stop there and answer any questions that anybody has. If anyone has any Q&A or any questions at all, happy to answer them.
We did have a question come in through the Q&A panel. Is it possible to use AI to build a template?
That's a good question. You might be able to. So we don't have it built into Monolith, but I haven't tried it myself. But if you opened up Claude or ChatGPT, um, if you started the chat, if you point it at our docs page for our report templates and you gave it a copy of one of your Microsoft Word templates, it might be able to use that templating. It might be able to use that information to help you build a new convert a Word template to our syntax. So I would encourage you to try it. It might be able to do it. I know that I use Claude all the time to help me with other types of Microsoft Word documents, just related to the business. So I bet if you just gave it the context of what you're trying to do, point it at our docs page, give it a copy of your already existing Microsoft Word template, or you might be able to ask it to help you construct a report from scratch using our templating system. I would very much encourage you to play around with it, see if you have any luck with it. I bet it could probably do it.
Alrighty, does anybody else have questions? As a reminder, if you want to come on and ask your question over a microphone, we're happy to do that. Just raise your hand and we'll get that going for you. Okay. It looks like that is it for questions. So thank you guys for coming today. Thanks, Matt, for showing us how that feature works. I'm going to include the link to the docs that Matt brought up when we send out the recording of this afterwards. So be on the lookout for those. And just a heads up to everybody, we are not doing a Monolith Monday next week in observance of Memorial Day here in the US, but we'll be back on our regularly scheduled Monolith Mondays the following Monday. So with that, thanks everybody for coming today, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.